Good evening and welcome to Freedom is a Constant Struggle with your host Kilu Nyasha. And today is and I'm sorry, the engineer being so generous to board up for me tonight is Stephen Leader. And with me in the studio is Willie Sundiata Tate, who is a member of All of Us or None, was many years ago one of the San Quentin 6 defendants in the case that resulted in the aftermath of the incident in which George Lester Jackson was assassinated on the yard of San Quentin State Prison on August 21st, 1971, exactly 38 years ago. Welcome, Sundi, his nickname, Sundi, to Freedom is a Constant Struggle. You've been here before, and it's a pleasure to have you back again as our guest.
Thank you, Kilo. It's my pleasure to be here.
And Sundi, you were in prison with George, and I would like our viewers to learn who George was from someone who personally knew him, who lived with him.
George, Comrade G, as we sometimes called him, was one of the most beautiful human beings that I have ever had the experience of knowing. He not only was a revolutionary brother, but he was guided by great feelings of love.
Right.
In his practice, in his behavior, the way he related to others. Revolutionary in the way he viewed his overall concept of the system, which he tried and did pass on to others.
He was also an incredible organizer. Talk a little bit about some of the organizing he did behind the walls to unite prisoners.
Well, early on, in 1962, at DBI, George organized...
And that's a state prison,
yeah,
maximum security?
Yeah,
all right.
Purification Institute, in the segregation unit there. George organized all the prisoners, black, white, Mexican, to support a food strike.
Because the food, no doubt, was terrible.
1962, it was Thanksgiving.
Uh-huh.
And he brought people together around that issue. It was only probably no more than 17 cells in segregation unit, if that many. But the fact that he could organize across racial lines at that early age,
and at that time,
speaks to, you know, how broad and deep he was.
Right. Yeah, because it's unfortunately as segregated as ever now. And
in those particular time of DBI, I mean, it was a hotbed of racism. I mean, all night long, you would hear people calling you niggas.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to the point that it would wake you up out of your sleep. It was like torture.
Mm.
And for George to be able to organize at that particular time across racial lines just speaks to who he was.
Exactly.
At an early age.
Exactly.
Because at that time, I think he was only like 20.
Yeah.
You know.
It was amazing.
19 or 20.
Talk about how he came to be in jail. I mean, he had was in a gas station robbery that netted a whole $70, and he got an indeterminate sentence of 1 to life.
Yes, he did.
Right. And most of that was spent in solitary confinement. Why would you say that he was constantly under attack by the guards and the administration and denied parole over and over again? Why do you think that happened to George?
I think it happened because of George being so heavy mentally intellectually and being able to understand the system and how it played people against each other, how it played different races against each other. And the fact that he could organize across those lines, you know, but at the same time, George also had the ability to fight against that aggression within the prison system where racists would attack. He had the ability to also defend and to
for sure
carry out whatever was necessary to be recognized as a man, as a human being,
right,
as a member of the human family.
Yes, he was a martial artist.
And not only was he a martial artist, to me, his greatest thing was his mind.
Absolutely. It was a weapon.
And his ability to communicate to others.
Yes.
Calmly.
Yeah. He was a giant intellectually. And his political analysis is just amazing. I'd like to share with our viewers the first book that he wrote, Soledad Brother, The Prison Letters of George Jackson, which was a bestseller and introduced me to George in 1971. I read this, no, 1970 when it came out, and it was a bestseller. Mm-hmm. And that's when I began a correspondence with him. And this book has an introduction by the famous writer Jean Genet.
Yes, it does.
And this book is still relevant. I've been perusing it within the last couple of days, and I'm just amazed at how relevant his writings still are to today. Mm-hmm. And when they cleaned out his cell after he was murdered in San Quentin, according to his attorney, they took 99 books from his cell covering the history of the world. And as you probably know, George was a bookworm even when he was in juvenile.
George even had a book on nuclear weapons, nuclear power. So that just speaks to his depth.
He just studied it all.
And George really believed in the power of a people having an armed force. He always, that's one of the things that he always was known for, was the ability to defend and the ability to enforce some demands.
Right.